When spring comes to the rainforest, you can see it all around. In the small things like the sprouting seedlings, or the big things like the miracle of new life.
It was a long Monday, Tuesday gone. Wrote it down in a song.
The world around us resets in a magical display of colour and growth.
Paradise found.
The season cycle starts anew, and we are reminded of the grandeur of nature and our little role within it.
You'll go on, on, on. Just like the river, you'll go on. You'll go on, on.
Last week, the sheep gave birth to 3 tiny lambs. In their bright eyes, we see the world reflected back through their lens of innocence. Watching the flock interact fills us with inspiration. Sadimir is the ram, so he is their dad. He introduced himself to each of the babies, and he was so excited to meet them. I always find sayings like sheeple or following the flock or just one of the herd so strange. It is such a beautiful thing to be one of a flock, all working together for a common harmony. Each of the sheep have different roles. Aphrodite is the navigator, Sapodi is the mediator, Lanky Boy is the protector. They move across the hills as a flock, not led by anyone but their joint care for each other. So I try to live my life like a sheep, moving through the world not led by myself but by my community. Self-growth, self-love, self-care, there are so many ways that we're encouraged to focus on ourselves, which I think can be healing, but I think that it isn't so simple. Self-care is to look inward, but what if we look outward instead? If you care for your community, you can see your actions ripple outwards endlessly. But this care also reverberates inwards to ourselves. The sheep's role is integral to our permaculture systems on the farm. They eat grasses so that the weeds don't overgrow the orchards. Before them, the rainforest growth was almost impossible to keep up with. But as they forage underneath the trees, they don't just clear weeds, but they also fertilize the soil with their droppings and eat all of the fallen fruit. We rotate their paddocks often, so that they aren't grazing over the same grasses too much. Short grazing periods encourage growth in the grasses. As sheep stimulate the grasses by nibbling on them, this movement creates a root response and regrows thicker. Through the rainforest, there is an orange tree that is more than 100 years old. It was planted by the man who cared for this land before our grandparents. To pick fruit from a tree that was planted by someone that I never knew is an amazing thing.
There's a place that I like to go. Where the air's quiet and the dandelions glow.
I don't know many stories or facts about this man who lived here in the early 1900s, but as I harvest, I imagine him planting this tree 100 years ago, under the same sky, looking onto the same mountains. I wonder if he knew that his simple action would feed generations to come, that a century later, his small sapling would have grown into a thriving orange tree with the juiciest fruit. It's always a funny feeling to realize that in a few generations we will be forgotten. But it's also comforting to think that the stories that we weave into the world can remain. The art that we make or the trees that we plant, continuing to spread meaning.
Right down the middle of the country road line.
It's technically still winter here, but the seasons in the subtropics are very different to the typical European seasons that we follow. This week it's been up to 34 degrees Celsius, which is 93 degrees Fahrenheit. We normally don't get these temperatures until mid-spring, but the seasons are more unpredictable each year. The springtime is the driest here. Sometimes months stretch without a single drop of rain. But the creeks are full from rain that we had last week, so we appreciate their cool mountain water flowing over us. The plants are all shifting to the season, with new growth spreading across the canopy. All of the animals of the springtime have begun to sing, and the forest echoes with the chorus of kookaburras, baby magpies, and the first frogs waking for the summer.
While the birds sleeping, all the moths are in flight. Looking up to see the side of light. And I gave a chance to think.
We got these marigold seeds from a friend and spread them in the garden one day. They quickly bloomed and filled the garden with bright growth. Now we spread the seeds each season, and they continue to blossom. We give them to friends and pass on the gift of eternal, colourful flowers. It's beautiful to think that just one seed can grow into endless fields of flowers. Again, we are reminded of the huge change that can come from one small action. Many years ago, when we were just kids growing up in these hills, a little lamb was born. She was the first sheep ever born on the farm, and by our side, she grew from a tiny playful lamb into the matriarch of the herd. We named her Yuno. Yuno the sheep died of old age, around the same time that our dad died, but we watched the flock recover and continue to roam through the orchards. We saw her daughter Aphrodite take over as leader. We began to see how much death is a part of the cycles of life. Then, this week, Aphrodite gave birth to twins, who are Yuno's grandchildren. These little souls will grow, and one day soon they'll be leaders of the flock just like their mama. Suddenly, we understand the cycles of life so clearly. Yuno went back to the earth, just as those before us have done. She lives on in her children, the fruit trees, and the grasses that grow. In the cycles of the flock, we understand our life on this earth not as a linear journey, but as a circular movement. A moment in time, significant in its insignificance. The babies don't know come on yet, so no one's moving properly. Come on! Aphrodite, wrong way! She's going back. Come on, we're moving panic! Aphrodite, come on! Come on! Come on! Come on! The sheep need moving to a new paddock so they'll have a fresh pick to eat, but the ones with babies are too scared to come, so this is my favourite job. We need to pick them up and show the parents where they need to come to, and while we're at it we'll check for ticks on the little lambs.
Come on!
you go, you've got a new paddock and your babies and so much fresh grass. These little babies will have roles within the flock too. Their characters are already growing as they learn to walk, drink milk and bounce. We named Etna's little girl Panini and Aphrodite's twins Poet and Cherub. Panini is independent and acts like she is a big sheep. Poet is soft and shy and serious, and Cherub is cuddly, bouncy and loves scratches behind the ears. We live on the lands of the Arakwal and Minjungbal people of the Bundjalung Nation. We acknowledge the traditional custodians of the country we live on and recognise their continuing connection to the land and waters. We thank them for protecting this rainforest and its ecosystems since time immemorial. We've been getting lots of winter rain and I think we're just between a shower now. It's about to start raining. But I am planting a ground cover while the soil's so wet. We brush cut in here a few days ago, probably a week ago now, and now I'm just spreading seed of white clover, which is really good for fixing nitrogen into the soil and creating a ground cover.
This is an old creek flat, where thousands of years ago the creek would have run through. This means that it is beautiful alluvial soil, so we grow a lot of kiwi fruit in this special valley. The soil is volcanic because the whole farm sits on the edge of an ancient volcano. This rich soil is full of nutrients. The hot, wet subtropical climate brings abundant growth, although it also brings abundant weeds. Through integrative farming techniques, we try to aid the beautiful rich soils to regenerate. We brush cut all of the grasses and smaller weeds and then hand pull the larger ones. Now I'm planting white clover to fix nitrogen, relieve compaction, and release calcium.
You don't like the rain? Oh, you're running home! The music in this video is by O.C. Elliott, and you can find their links in our description. Don't forget, you can also purchase our book in our description too. Thank you to our patrons for supporting our journey of land restoration and animal care. We are so grateful.
My